This is Abe Friedhanser from Awards Watch, and I'm so thrilled to be speaking with Antony Starr about season three of The Boys. How are you, Antony? Of
I'm great. Thanks for having me in.
course, thanks for speaking with me. Would you say that Homelander is a role you enjoy playing?
100%, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I didn't really know what I was getting into when I put the tape down, and especially because when I was given the opportunity to audition, to put a tape down, sorry, it's not, which is the new auditioning. I only had the pilot script, and there's only two scenes in it. There's a little boardroom scene rallying the troops, and then there's a scene at the end cutting a plane in half. So it gives you both sides of the character, but not a lot more. So I went to the source material, which is quite racy, for a prude such as myself from New Zealand, for a shy boy from New Zealand. And yeah, then I got to read more of the material once I got it, and I started getting more involved with Eric Kripke and really starting to understand his vision. We had Dan Trachtenberg set us up with the pilot as well, and he's an amazing director. So we got really not lucky. I mean, they chose well, and it got set up in the right way, and we were allowed so much creative freedom to really get into these characters and really commit to them, take them on, collaborate on them, and really build them and grow them, which you don't always get, So I very early on realized that this was that I had a good one. Sometimes you're on a show and you're like, this is a lemon. This is not gonna age well. It's like cheese left in the sun almost. But this immediately, you could feel that there was this a momentum and dare I say it, there was it had a spirit or a soul or something energetic that the chemistry set was right from day one, and you can feel it. And it was now that I'm getting a little longer in the tooth, I was like, right, appreciate this, really make the most of this. And I have, and it's been one of the most, if not the most rewarding job that I've had.
That's
Jobs.
really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely an interesting character. He's definitely not a lemon, but I think he does so much disturbing stuff. You have to be in a certain sort of headspace and sort of watch yourself from getting sucked into that in the performance.
No, not. I mean, I know I've heard stories of people going method on things and becoming very intense to be around. And I may be intense to be around, but it's not because of that. It's just because I'm a loud, always trying to be funny guy. I'm just annoying, like an annoying little brother. But no, I mean, it's we do. It's an interesting line that the show walks, and I think really Homelander epitomizes that of that real darkness and a very serious side, a very dark, edgy feel, as well as some lightness, levity. It's quite funny a lot of the time. We're always looking for moments that we can take the dark and really throw some light on it and make it funny, to make people sort of question what they're laughing at, if you like. And it's a funny little hybrid in that way, both in the character and the show. And it's yeah, it's not one of those characters that I think you need to really, I call it derobing. Well, I know there's some actors call it de-rolling, but I believe there's a healthy way of doing it where you punch the clock, go to work, and then turn back into a human at the end of the day, because otherwise, I just think there's a healthy way of doing it, and I like to try and lean into that.
Think that he is redeemable as a character, and does that matter?
I No, I mean, I don't think so. I don't see how you could redeem this character, and I don't think you want to, because what I think ultimately, the message in the show is one of hope, You know, it's a pretty, at its bones, it's good versus evil, right? It's a, who's going to win out, the forces of evil, the evil empire. It's a Star Warsy sort of thing, the rebels or the empire, right? So you want, I don't know how the show finishes, but I do know that Eric said, you know, their Bible, or their one of their go-to, the things that they always try and remember, is that whenever someone does something wrong, they get punished. When someone does something right, they get rewarded. And I think, you know, and it'd be interesting to see if the show wound up in a very real way, where the forces of evil win. You know, I think everyone would come out of that a bit doom and gloom. You know, and I think at the moment, what people love about the show is that, first of all, it's entertaining. It boldly steps, you know, it stomps its way into social issues. It doesn't pull any punches there. You know, it's not shy about that. It's unapologetic, let's say. And I think people love that, because I think there's so many shows now that tiptoe around the edges of things, you know, and we're prepared to just go in and get in the mess and go, no, this is what this is. Or at least go, well, what is this? You know, ask the question. And there's not, I've actually forgotten the question. My God. I just started getting lost in my own thought. What was your question?
We're talking about whether you know, he's redeemable.
Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, no, I think with all that I've just said in mind, we do want to look at these issues, but we want to end the show on well, I don't know how the show ends, but redeeming Homelander, maybe that is hopeful. Maybe the most evil man in the world being redeemed is a very hopeful ending. You know, I there is some hope in that, but I don't think it's the hope that we want. I think we need the bad guy, the villain that represents so much negative in society. I think he needs to have his comeuppance personally, but I don't write the show, and every time I think I know where they're going to go, I'm completely wrong. So, but no, I don't think the character is redeemable. I think he's just not evil, but too damaged beyond repair.
Yeah. I do think it's unpredictable, and the only thing that I can count on every episode is that Homelander is going to get in the way of everything going right. That seems to be the most dependable thing, is that just when things could, you know, I guess because the show should end, right? When everything's going right. We have to keep things going until that's the case.
Reliable like a Swiss watch, my friend.
So you talked about the social commentary in the show, and I think that's definitely there, especially in that final scene of season 3, when everybody starts cheering, you know, when Ryan is there and
Yeah.
Homelander just, I mean, let's talk about that scene for a minute before we get into it. What was it like to shoot that scene and working with, you know, a young actor like that?
Yeah, it's funny. It's interesting. When I read that and I got it immediately. Oh, it's directly leaning into, remember that quote Trump said, you know, he could go down Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and no one would care. So that's basically that. We thought, you know, well, the writers thought they would flesh that out with our boy. And well, I remember reading it going, thinking, I don't know if this works. I don't feel like it works. It feels somehow, it just feels too far. Excuse me. But you know, things sometimes take a little while to gestate, and you know, I talked to Eric about it, and we did it, and I think it works. I think it absolutely works. I think it's just, and again, leaning into this social idea that, you know, it made me you know what? It made me really curious to know if Teflon Don did do that, whether he would somehow weasel out of it, or, you know, keep it in court forever and, you know, do his thing. But no, I think it's I love that the show went there. I love that the kid was involved, and it worries me for Ryan. I think that little smirk of his at the end, I think I can't reveal in 4, but you know, that smirk doesn't bode well for our little man's future. But I love that the show really between Homelander and Butcher, and it comes up at the end of season 3. Well, it comes up through the whole show, but it's really I look at it like the battle for Ryan's soul between these two male archetype, well, not archetypes, but male role model figures, or non-role model. They're both serial killers, so they're probably not great role models, but it definitely feels like that to me. Is which way is the needle going to swing with the little man's moral compass? And I can't wait to talk about season 4, but I can't yet. Or the other people, the people listening in would kill me.
Are a little bit subtler than what would happen on The Boys, right? You would just be like struck down by some laser vision. If it was The Boys in here, we just don't hear from you again, or something else like that.
No, I would just never, my internet would cut out and I would never be able to get Wi-Fi again. I'm like, what?
I assume you have a lot of interactions with fans of the show just because there is such a strong fan base. Do you think there's anybody out there who's watching this show and doesn't understand the symbolism and somehow is still rooting for Homelander as a good guy?
I'm suspicious you know the answer to that question, but and yeah, there are some people out there. There's some you know, I'm not gonna punch down on them, but there are some people out there that clearly misunderstood the intention behind the entire character and everything that is trying to be said about what that character represents. I think it was clarified. I mean, I've seen Twitter tussles, twustles, with people, you know, really laying into each other, going, you know, Boogie, get it, and you know, no, it's this, and I don't really understand how you'd have to have a very specific mindset to think that Homelander was anything other than one extremely damaged, I don't want to say evil, but let's keep it in like damaged beyond repair, despicable, like, you know, maybe there's reasons, we go into the reasons why he's like he is, but ultimately he's, you know, he's still accountable and responsible for what he does, for who and what he is. And yeah, those people need to read a few books and revisit the show after reading those books, and take another look at it with through fresh eyes, through fresh lenses.
Have you seen or heard any less, you know, unsettling but entertaining reactions to Homelander that you didn't expect?
I think the one that I get, the one that surprises me is again on social media. That's really mostly where it comes up, because when we meet people out when we go and promoting the show and we have fan events, it seems that all those people are, I mean, it's a great exchange. I love meeting the fans because, you know, I mean, without them we don't have a show, and it's for them. And they're so genuine and so openly effusive about the show, and so you don't really get into that stuff there. Again, it's online, where the real action happens. And the most surprising, I think it is the most surprising thing is a lot of people get really confused at the fact that they can see that he's evil. They know that he's bad, as opposed to the chaps, and I'm going to say it is chaps that we were talking about before. They know that he's bad. They know he's a scumbag. They know he's the bad guy of the show, but somehow they like him. And that's really interesting. And I think that's a testament to the writers and the balancing act of this character, just trying to really walk that line. But I don't even know, many lines, let's say. But I think that surprised me, because I look at it from the inside, so I'm always making choices for my guy. that are I don't judge him, like it's acting 101, you don't judge your character and all that. But I still when I step out of it, I'm like, yeah, he's a son of a bitch, So I never expected anyone to turn around and actually say, yeah, I know that he's bad, I know that he's bad, but I still like him, which is interesting.
Really. Well, this show has a great international cast of characters, many of whom are playing, people from other places. But
Mm.
how much does it matter that Homelander is American? And what is it like to take on that role where obviously you are not born in America?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have from time to time I have mused. I've wondered what it would be like, what this character would be like, what the show would be like if the two leads, well, the two lead of when I say leads, the two leads of the soups, the leaders, the head of the boss of the soups and the boss of the boys, both being Kiwis. It's interesting. I've with my guy, I've wondered, like, I wonder what it would be like if an American played it, whether they'd be willing and ready to have these moments of acidity towards America and American culture and politics, and or whether they would pull that punch and really just kind of try and sort of nod to it and oh, tip of the hat to that. But whereas we go boldly, we stride into these issues, and I think the show is not, I don't think you could say that the show is subtle about the points it's trying to make. And I think that's one of the things that I love about it, is that it is absolutely fucking unapologetic about that. And I think more shows should do it. I think there's a lot of shows out there. In fairness, there is a lot of shows that really do, that really that do the same thing in their own way. But I think that's one of the things I'm proud of with our show, is that we are willing to just sort of put our neck on the block, and not be shy about it, and actually really, you can watch it and just pure entertainment, or you can actually, you can choose to engage in the messages that are very clearly in it.
Yeah. And I think season 3 was interesting with the addition of Soldier Boy, and just somebody who is a relic from another time where, unfortunately, some of what he does and what Homelander does might have seemed more acceptable. But it was interesting seeing all that. What was it like working with Jensen Ackles and just having a character who I think is a lot more powerful than Butcher in some ways and represents a different kind of, physical and emotional threat?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, Jansen's just a big, I think everyone had a crush, myself included, on this Jensen Ackles character who came in, and he's handsome, deep voice, charming, and it's like, oh God. And what I've got to trying to find something not to like about him, but I haven't found it yet. And he did a great job with the role as well. It's like, that charm that he has, and that the thing that he has, whatever that is, made the toxic masculinity that he brought into the show, that old school chauvinism, and that it's all horrible stuff, but it's also hilariously funny the way he does it. And it's so it was great having him there. Unfortunately, I like a lot of that I saw after the event. I didn't have a lot of scenes with him in the show. We had the big fight scene, and that when we first met. Up to then, that was episode 6. So up to then, he only came into the show, I think, episode 3 or 4, if from memory. I'm just going back a bit for me, but and then we had our comeuppance in episode 6, and then really he was off with Butcher again, and they were trying to get him in line to take me out. And then we had the classic father-son, the old man, look at my life, I'm a lot like you, were seen at the end of the season. And it was I mean, all of those scenes were amazing to do, and I spent a lot of time with him offset, and I know the work that he puts in. He's a total pro. He turned up, and as having someone come in for a season like that. It doesn't always go that way, you know. It's, you never know what you're going to get. We got a goodie in him, and it was brilliant work offset, but then what he brought on screen as well, I think was really, it was perfect casting. And I think I loved working with him. You know, it's always nice to have someone, you know, it's like tennis, you want someone that can hit the ball hard back.
I think a lot of American audiences probably know you mostly from this show, but I had seen you in another show before this, which I was very excited to get to discuss just for a second, which is Banshee.
Yeah, sure.
And I think in some ways that show is darker and more violent than this one, which I think a lot of people who have seen The Boys would be surprised to hear there is a show that is more violent. But I think that occupies a very unique space of television, and it's so disturbing, but just so compelling. What was it like being part of that show?
I totally agree with you. It occupies its own space still. There's not, I don't think there's anything, I don't think there'd been anything like it. And I don't think there's been anything quite like it. It's its own little, I don't even know what to call it. It's a very unique little piece. And it was great. I mean, I sort of, every time I look at or think about what we did, my body, I get aches and pains spontaneously, because it was brutal to shoot. Whenever people are complaining about the schedule on our show, because we shoot pretty quickly on The Boys, I'm like, you didn't, like, doing Banshee was like doing a tour of fucking Nam. It was like, you know, if you'd done it, you were like, this is, you can do anything, this is nothing. But it was a great show to work on. I mean, fantastic people. I'm thrilled that it's on what is now Max, right? They took the good bit away that everyone recognizes for quality and called it Max. Clever. Never working for Max again. But maybe I'll work for HBO. So anyway, it was great. It was great. A lot of fun. Great crew. Just celebrated our 10-year anniversary of that coming to air actually in January. And it was a trip, man. And I do think, like, the people that liked Banshee, I've met a lot of fans that started with Banshee and then you know, crossed over to this, and there's a lot of similarities, you know, in the same way that Banshee really just gorge fed on violence and pulpy craziness and melodrama, in a very different, it's different obviously, but there is a lot of similarity, and somehow there's a similarity. I'm not sure how to quite explain it, but I always tell people, if you liked The Boys, go watch Banshee, and if you like Banshee, check out The Boys, because I think it's going to be in your wheelhouse.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes, and I can't wait for season 4.
Yeah, I can't wait to give it to you.
Take care. Very nice to meet you. Thanks again.
All right.